We're back. We're back. I'm so sorry. Apologies. And thank you for your patience. We had some technical difficulties again, but for the rest of the event, for the rest of the show, this is how you're going to be watching. It's going to be streamed to my page. And Marion, it's also getting streamed to your LinkedIn page.
Yeah, we're back, and I'm actually streaming to my page. So those of you in my network that are not familiar with what's going on, this is the Workplace Wellness Summit. It's the second of its type. The first one was on Clubhouse, and this is going to be today and tomorrow. And we've already had a couple great speakers. You can find the original event and see those speakers and watch the recording. But if you're watching us live, we need you to let us know. There's Darlene Nabby. Thank you. You're my favorite. Thank you for letting us know that we're here again. We had two amazing speakers. Samana, share with us what the topic for this segment is, and then we'll continue forward with Nicole. And Meredith is here, by the way. So we're good.
We'll bring Meredith up.
Everybody's coming back.
This is wonderful. So this segment here is leadership and diversity. We are so excited. The first two speakers have completed their sessions. It was streamed on sort of two different live streams, but everything's recorded. Everything's available on YouTube, so you can always go watch that and check it out. Our next speaker is Nicole North. I'm going to hopefully Meredith can join us in just a second here. And if she does, we're going to get her to introduce Nicole North, and I'm just going to hop off stage. Thank you so much.
Well, welcome back, Meredith. I'm going to introduce Nicole, but welcome back. We have had an amazing day, and we've all been smiling through this whole thing.
Meredith, big smiles.
Big smiles.
Big smiles.
We'll talk about this.
What else are we going to do, right?
What else are we going to do? This is how wellness works. Like, this is how work is, right? And we've already talked about all that, but let's keep going, moving forward. We got a lot of speakers to come later. Please stick with us. Share that you're watching the Workplace Wellness. Please take a break from work and stay with us.
Yeah,
and our next speaker is someone who I really admire quite a bit. I got to meet her at the original Workplace Wellness through Clubhouse last year. She is just an amazing and dynamic leader. She teaches on the Limitless Leader. And Nicole, welcome to the stage. This is Nicole North coming in from Toronto. How are you, Nicole?
I'm great, thanks. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
You're amazing. And I'm going to turn it over to you. You have your 10 minutes to wow us, and I know you will. And thank you so much for sticking with us through this process.
No, you guys are handling it absolutely spectacularly. I'm so thrilled to be here. Let's get right into it. As a leader, friend, or spouse, have you ever given a solution to a problem or given advice only to be met with a blank stare, sheer and utter confusion, maybe anger and resistance, even tears? This look of confusion is what German philosopher Jürgen Habermas calls communicative incompetence. His model describes communicative competence as the conflation of three things. 1, a shared truth. Do we agree on the basic facts? 2, understanding intention. Is this person an ally or an enemy? And 3, adapting to worldviews. Are there personality, generational, or cultural differences at play? Today we'll be specifically talking about number 3, which means adapting your personality differences to maximize how you lead your teams through workplace wellness and burnout. Today, I want to share with you 3 steps to creating communicative competence in workplace wellness conversations as a leader. The first step is self-awareness. The second step is recipient awareness. And the third is crafting a message that meets the recipient where they are at. Let me tell you a story about my very best friend, Yadina. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Nicole North. I'm the founder of Whiteboard Consulting, creator of the Whiteboard Learning app, and the Limitless Leader program. I've been designing and facilitating leadership content for the past 10 years for organizations like IMAX, Volkswagen, Magna, Equifax, Toronto Hydro, as well as the University of Toronto and a number of colleges in Ontario and Canada. I'm a Myers-Briggs type indicator and Reach Psychometric Profile certified practitioner. I'm a certified coach and a terrible best friend. Let me get back to that story. My best friend Yidin and I have been friends since grade 10, so about 25 years. Don't do any of that math. I don't want anyone to know how old I am. She's my BFF, my ride or die, you get it. She's the one I call when I have a new boyfriend, when I lose a new boyfriend, and everything in between. My dziadzia, that's Polish for grandfather, was my last surviving relative on my mother's side. Having no aunts or uncles or siblings on my mother's side, I was his last surviving relative too. So we had a very, very special relationship. I took care of him for many, many years, taking him to the bank, doctor's appointments, grocery shopping, you name it. And my best friend knew him and his angry yet lovable disposition very, very well. At one point, he began to show some signs of dementia. He was around 96. And I was very, very distressed at the thought of losing my very alert, tough, powerhouse Polish grandfather to dementia. And as one does, I called my best friend to talk about it. And with the kindest tone of voice, she said to me, "Oh, honey, he's old. What did you expect?" And I remember hanging up the phone after that conversation, being completely furious about that response. When I began working with psychometric assessments and personality types, I quickly recognized her statement and my reaction to that statement as the perfect storm between a task-oriented thinking type that looks at situations objectively and a people-focused feeling type, the ones that tend to sit and need to validate emotions before they can move to the rational side. I subsequently told this story time and time again to leadership groups to demonstrate the notion of personality diversity. A few years later, I told her that I tell this story every time, and I facilitate it because it's such a good example of how the two styles tend to butt heads. And much to my surprise, my task-oriented thinking friend broke down into tears. I was floored. She explained her intention was helping me remove the emotion from the situation and helping me to focus on the facts. That was a huge aha. Remember Jürgen Habermas's number 2. That's intention. Do we agree that we had good intentions going into this conversation? And it proved a statement that I had long stated to my participants in personality diversity courses. Thinkers can feel and feelers can think. They just process those in a little bit of a different sequence. Did you know that the annual cost of stress-related absences to Canadian employees is $3.5 billion? Billion. It occurred to me that there must be thousands of conversations like this between leaders and employees about wellness. Someone sharing their personal struggles or challenge with wellness or burnout, and potentially a leader that is responding with some strategies to attack them. And, the employee still needs to sort their emotions about their wellness and the organization's influence on that wellness. As leaders, it is our job to meet employees where they are at. Let me repeat that. I'll say it differently. As a leader, it behooves you to adjust and adapt to the style of your team and your employees, not the other way around. Sorry, you don't get the big bucks for nothing as a manager. I have 3 steps to share with you today to help your teams manage their health and wellness through communicative competence. So number 1, self-awareness, understanding yourself. 2, self-awareness of the recipient. And 3, crafting the best message that prioritizes their thought and communication style preference. So let's start with number 1. The first thing I want you to do right now is take just a hot minute to reflect and think. What do you prefer when people are interacting with you? So those in the chat, please answer that. What do you prefer when people are interacting with you? Do you prefer empathy and comfort? What about a listening ear? People telling you that they understand and can empathize with your situation? Or do you prefer to get to the solutions and get right to the problem solving? Once you understand what your style is, you can be better equipped to be on the lookout for what your recipient's communication style is. Understand the personality preference of the recipient so that you get to step number 3, which is crafting your message so that you get the greatest impact. Isn't that what we all want as leaders, to create impact so your teams can feel limitless in their ability to solve problems and be productive and work towards the goals of the organization? This is why you need to know your recipient before you can do number 3, craft the message. So now I'm going to share the leader tool to help you with number 3. And coincidentally, it handles number 1 and 2 as well concurrently. So that's leader, Leeter. L stands for listen. Listen actively, nodding, taking notes, taking time to understand, and not prepare what you're going to say, not prepare your rebuttal. E is for echo. Echo back what you heard and ensure you're on the same path. Think of that communicative competence from Jürgen Habermas. Let's ensure that the truth is shared. The second E is for empathize. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. This is not to say, I'm sorry you feel that way. It's more like, I can tell this is frustrating for you. I can sense that you are stressed. T is for thank. Thank the person for bringing this to your attention and being open and vulnerable to having this conversation with you. This creates psychological safety and opens the door to future conversations. Evaluate your responses together. And finally, R, resolve. Now you can mutually agree and commit to a workplace wellness solution and move forward. So today I challenge you to learn about your personality and preferences. I use REACH and sometimes MBTI, but there are many more that you can try. Learn about yourself, learn about your team, and communicate competently. Thank you.
Yes, a round of applause. Please give Nicole North your favorite round of applause emoji. Thank you so much. I know you're so busy doing a bunch of really amazing, cool stuff. So thank you so much. We're going to continue on with the conversation. This is the Workplace Wellness Summit. I am so excited to be here. We did run into all the technical issues that we could have thought about. I almost started to cry, but then I didn't because I heard Meredith Granda in the background say, smile, Samana, take a deep breath. So I did literally that. I smiled and took a deep breath. So our first segment took a little bit longer than it should have, but we are here. We are ready. I am here for you. I see all the comments, and I'm so happy I didn't cry because I don't want to mess up all this mascara, you guys. So anyways, our second segment here is one of my favorite ones, workplace wellness and equity. How do we have this conversation? I'm going to bring my co-moderator up on stage here very quickly, and our co-moderator is Rebecca O'Brien. Hopefully she'll join me here in just a moment. Hello, Rebecca O'Brien from Sweden. Hello, how are you?
Hello. I hope you can hear me all right. It's so good to see everyone. Fantastic. It was great to hear the last 3 speakers. That was just fantastic to start us off, even if we had some technical issues there. But I'm so excited to be here, Sumana, and see all the people in the audience and the comments and the support and even questions that they're having throughout this, because we are live and we are continuing on the 4 special topics that we have here today of leadership, mental health, workplace wellness, and culture.
Yes, and this particular segment is really close to my heart as well, again, because workplace wellness is the theme of this entire conversation. So Rebecca, one of the things that I've been sort of battling with, I'm thinking a little bit about is, what are some components of an equitable workplace? And when I think about equity in the workplace, I'm thinking about programs and resources that could be available for employees, and what can organizations do to really support their employees beyond just giving them a wellness perk, which is just a gym membership or a yoga membership. Yes, of course, we need all of those wonderful things, but equity, when we think about equity, what are some components that come to your mind? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes, yeah. What a great question. What a great question to start us off on this, special topic, just really close to my heart as well. And I thank you for that question, Sumana. I would really love to just dive into first, the thought that comes up is holistically. like this is a holistic aspect that we need to look at for our employees, and also respect and understand that everyone is different. Everyone, has their different and unique needs, and we need to be respectful of that. It's also with both, what has happened within the pandemic and the diversity of the circumstances throughout the pandemic. I think what programs really need to include is both on a virtual aspect, but also in person, because we have been so, disconnected through this past 2 years of many working from home, many countries and many different parts of the world being on lockdown. And I really think that we need to look at that, even with the connection to ourselves and connections within our colleagues, and how that looks both with resources and support and education. A few ones that come to mind is both the technological aspect of course, there can be apps, there can be meditation, there can be, the different programs itself, but we also need resources like look at the parents and how are those resources, look at us as individual and our different needs. How can, a program provide more support and let's say extra within. Is it counseling? Is it, specifically mental health and therapists? Or is it bringing in wellness coaches, to further support a program that they might have as, let's say a baseline and starting point from? But there needs to be other areas around that as well. And I think coming down to really a safe space for the vulnerable conversations and the flexibility. So all the employees have this flexibility both throughout their, work-life harmony of both home and as employees in an organization, but also flexibility within the wellness programs and continuing to visit it, whatever decisions the company gets, and to revisit it to see, is this something that is aligned with both our culture and our employees and where we want to go moving forward? And if not, to, look into that and take new action and to realign that, because we are moving to the future and we want that to be best supported for all of us within the workplace.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, a lot of these components of modernizing workplace wellness, employees do want flexibility. We do want access to care. We do want those wellness perks that are beyond just a certain set of perks that a lot of organizations are used to. Now, when I was working in healthcare, that was all I had. I had a set number of wellness dollars, health and wellness benefits dollars that I could spend towards my benefits. But I couldn't get a hold of someone like Rebecca O'Brien, who is a wellness burnout coach, to use those dollars to spend, because that was beyond the spending expenses. So when we think about equity, we really do want to think about not just the flexibility, but also what can organizations do by talking to employees and getting to the cause of what their problems are, because every organization is different. And I'm seeing some comments here from Colleen. Thank you so much. Josh, I see you there. Who else do we have here? We have Nausheen. Thank you so much. Pamela. Don't cry. Thank you. I'm not crying. Brenda Pearson. I almost did. There was a lot going on, and I was like, oh my goodness, this wellness summit. You think about it, but then again, as well as individuals, we have learned resilience throughout the pandemic. And we have worked together to bring this amazing community. And we're going to talk more about culture and inclusion and mental health and belonging in our future sort of discussions. Any other questions, Rebecca, or should we be ready to bring the new speaker in? Because we're running a little bit late with our schedule.
We are a bit behind. I know we are. I had a quick one because I was really interested, just to, a short answer from yourself is, what do we think, because looking at the workplace wellness, how does work life look, do you think, for professionals right now, or both now and then post-pandemic as we are moving forward?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. I mean, work life for me is this. This is work life right now, to be able to grab my laptop, to be able to go wherever I want, work however I want, deliver for the organization. I think that fluidity that a lot of us are looking for, and to put that people forward. Are we thinking about, are we trying to fit the people into the job, or are we trying to fit the job into person. I think that distinction needs to be really clear as well, because there are a few jobs out there, especially in healthcare, where you have to go to work, you have to put on that PPE and show up and deliver. But there's a lot of jobs out there where we can do this, and if this is possible, let's do this. I think that the people to job and the job to people, I think, really does come to mind as a really good solution. What about you?
Love that. No, I love that. I love that. And even just to add with this, I mean, it is moving forward. I think a positive part of let's say a very traumatic event and a traumatic, 2 years now is we are talking about this, and we are talking about this more at our, both in the workplaces, but in our home lives as well, and with friends and family. And it's really given us time to reflect and see, what do we want moving forward, and to open up that conversation of, again, taking action then individually of ourselves and our wellness, but also within the companies. And I think that's so important with the fluidity that you said, because things are changing. So I appreciate that, and I know we are with time here. So shall we introduce our first speaker and welcome Nausheen Saumtally up on stage. I know Nausheen is joining us here today. Hello. It's so wonderful to see you.
Oh, I was on mute there. Hi, Rebecca. It's great to see you too. It's great to be part of that event.
Yes. Welcome. And I'm so excited to jump into this segment. Nausheen is going to start us off with workplace wellness. And I love the title of your speaking topic here today, which is work-life integration redefined. And I know with all of your insights and experiences and what you will share with us today is going to provide tremendous value. So I will leave it over to you and start us off, Nausheen.
Excellent. Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Simona. I want to start first to say, hey, tech is not every day our friend. And today it was definitely not the team's friend. And I just want to acknowledge the huge amount of efforts they're all doing in the background to be live. So I appreciate each and every one of you who are still live here, and I hope to be able to pour into your life in the next few minutes. And so I'm thrilled to be part of the Workplace Wellness Summit today, because wellness is something that is a pillar of my life. Since a very young age, I've always appreciated and tried to make it live it every single day of my life. And so for the next few minutes, I'm going to take you through redefining work-life integration and share a little bit of a different idea on how you can make that your own and effortlessly. Does that sound great? Okay. My name is Nausheen Saumtally. I am a corporate speaker and trainer, and I work with organizations to help their team work better together, understand themselves, the people around them, so that workplace wellness is lived every day. Stress is reduced, happiness is increased, and with that, there's a boost in productivity. That's the core of my work with organization. And I'm going to share a little piece of that with you just now. So work-life balance, work-life integration, as we're calling it here. I believe there are two things that causes a lot of frustration and stress when we think about work-life integration. And today I'm going to talk about one of these, and that's the term work-life itself. Work-life. When I'm holding this right in front of you, what message does that send to your mind? Work-life. It tells your mind that, hey, there's work, and then the rest of my life is on the other side. It's separate, and they don't mix, isn't it? But let me ask you this. What is our reality? What is our truth? Does work interact with the other areas of our life? It does, doesn't it? And a lot too. So why do we keep on separating the term work from life? It's sending the wrong message to our mind that does not comprehend when work is mixing with the other areas and telling us, hey, warning, warning, something wrong is happening here. And it activates all the parts of your body that says, hey, this is a source of frustration, this is a source of stress, this is negative. And we feel it and we start to live it. And so how about we stop separating work from life? We have life. We're living life, isn't it? And as part of life, we have our families, our health and fitness, our hobbies, our passion projects, and many other areas. And work is part of it. So let's start to look at it that way. And so when you think about what we've been calling work-life integration, if you propel yourself in the future and be in that place, what feeling does that bring? How do you feel in that moment? How does life feel like? I know a lot of people will say peace, peace of mind, happiness, joy, relax. But I think one key word that really embraces all of these is harmony. So how about, instead of calling it work-life integration, we simply call it life harmony. Life harmony. How does that sound? We look at life as a whole, holistically, like Rebecca mentioned earlier. And we aim to have harmony across all the different areas of our lives. Because our reality is that the different areas of our life, they're meant to interact. They're meant to overlap. But also, they support each other. Isn't it true that our work supports the other areas of our lives? It supports our family. It supports our hobbies. For me personally, it supports my passion, which is traveling. Isn't it equally true that our health and fitness supports the other areas of our life? It's the foundation of it all, isn't it? And that's our truth. This is how life is meant to be. All areas coexisting. And so that's the idea I want to share with you today. Let's stop to call work and see work separate from life, because that's not reality. And let's start to train our brain to see life as a whole, to incorporate work in life. And when we start to do that, a few things happen. Number one, we become the core of life harmony. We are the focus, not the things that are happening around us. So our well-being is the core. And when that happens, when we focus on us, it impacts all the different areas of our lives. And when we think about life harmony, it also, when our brain understands that and understands that our reality is that the different parts and areas of our life are meant to interact, they're meant to overlap and support each other, we feel much better when this happens. We feel much better because we have different seasons of our life, and we have seasons where work will be consuming, but we're okay with it because we also know that we're going to have seasons where our family will be more consuming and we'll have more time to spend with them. We'll have seasons of our lives where our hobbies will be our focus. And so it's important to first redefine and start to look at life as a whole. Stop separating work from life. That's the first thing. The second thing is to define what life harmony looks like for you. We're all different. And the previous speaker talked a lot about that, how we're all wired differently. And so what does life harmony looks like for you? When I was in the corporate world at Microsoft, it was very different for each of us. The people who had families, they would come in a little bit late because they wanted to take their kids to school and prepare them. And then they would work, and then later on spend some time, maybe leave early and spend some time with their families again before connecting back to work. For me, it was very different. It was me time in the morning, work, and personal development time. So what does life harmony look like for you? Stop separating work from life and start to look at life as a whole. Define what that looks like for you. And I'm going to leave you with a quote from Richard Branson. He says, rather than thinking of these two aspects of life as antagonistic, why not combine them? As I've said often, I don't divide work and play. It's all living. Thank you.
Thank you, Nausheen. Thank you so much for your time. What a wonderful presentation. Audience, I would love to hear your thoughts. I know there's a lot of audience conversation going on over here. I'm so excited to read all of them. Let me see what I have here. Who do we have here? I see David Spinner. Hello, David Spinner. Nice to see you here. Susan Karr, it's so nice to see you as well. Hannah, yes, Nausheen, we need to reframe work-life model. I love that. Felipe, thank you so much for your patience and for being here. He says, Nausheen, great share about work-life. Thank you so much. Planely is here as well. Great speaker, amazing topic. Wonderful. So again, I just want to do a quick little reset here. You are watching the Workplace Wellness Summit 2022, Modernizing Workplace Wellness. After a little kind of a bumpy ride with me not crying, yay for that. We are here live streaming again on my LinkedIn page. I think it's also streaming on other people's LinkedIn pages, but it is available for you to watch live on my YouTube, on my Twitter, so it's all there. Thank you so much for your patience. We are going to bring our next speaker up. So we're in the Workplace Wellness and Equity segment. There's 2 more segments to go. This is a TED Talk style presentation, so every speaker is going to come up and share. My heart is full when I want to introduce this next speaker, because Marion and I have been collaborating for over a year now. We've met on Clubhouse. We have our own weekly show, and it is my honor and my extreme privilege to announce our next speaker. Marion Spears Karr in the Workplace Wellness and Equity section is going to speak about equity starts with gratitude. Welcome, Marion Spears Karr.
Samana, thank you. And we have gone around the horn today. But amazing group of people, everybody watching, everybody collaborating. And I'm really honored to be talking on this particular topic, that equity starts with gratitude. And many of you watching are scratching your head where the connection, and hopefully you'll find in my 9 minutes or so that I'll be able to connect how the two play out. But let's first start and create a foundation of what equity should look like. Equality has been something that we've talked about for a while in the workplace and workforce for a very long time. And we understand a little bit about equality, right? We understand that equality is to be represented across the board. Everybody should have an equal opportunity, no matter what socioeconomic background they have, no matter what challenges they have, no matter what issues they might bring to the table. Everyone should have that opportunity, and creating that is really critical to all diversity and inclusion work that's being done out there. But equity really represents what is the outcome. Do people have the opportunity from an equitable perspective to receive the same benefit and the outcomes? Equity goes past this feeling of equality and puts it into action. So what does that mean when we talk about how gratitude fits within that? Here's what I think, and what a lot of the people that I follow really talk about, and something that has just been very heavy and strong on my heart. When we think about, as leaders, and this is the work that I do is executive search. I work with leaders across a lot of different spectrums. I do classes, I teach leadership conferences, I'm a keynote speaker. But one of the focuses I have is really making leaders better. My whole focus, my whole goal is to make any leader that I connect with better. And when I think about this idea of how do we create equity, where does that start? It has to start from a very central piece. And let's talk about that for a minute. Very central piece within that leader. Erich Fromm, the famous social psychologist who studied love, he studied ethics. He wrote a lot about that, wrote a book called Man for Himself, the psychology of ethics. an inquiry to the psychology of ethics. He published this book in 1947. It's a very, very long time ago. But one of the concepts that he created related to that book was this idea around what does love look like? And when I say love, I'm not talking about necessarily love between you and your spouse, your family, your significant other, but what does love for others look like? And I started when I read this book for the first time, I was a very young leader. And one of the things that struck me around his conversation around love for others was this concept that real love, real connection, real involvement and commitment comes from a place of productivity. It's not just enough to say as leaders that we care about our team or we want to lead them in an equitable way, but it has to be manifested in our actions. And he actually frames love as this idea of productive love. And there's 4 attributes. Those attributes of productive love are care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. Care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. I believe that the leaders of today that lead the strongest teams, who are committed to diversity inclusion, who are committed to equity, live those characteristics. Care, they actually provide care for the people that they lead. It's not just, I care about you as my followers, but I demonstrate that through servant leadership. I care. What does gratitude have to do with that? I have to be grateful for the opportunity to do that. I have to be thankful. I have to be appreciative of that. I have to be appreciative of the opportunity for me to provide that kind of leadership for the people that I want to follow me and want to achieve the goal, and then we're working together. So there's a connection between how we care for the people that we want to lead and how we treat them from an equity stake. The second component, we have to be responsible for our actions. How does that connect to gratitude? If you think about the people that you lead, if you want to lead a diverse group, if you want to connect with people and be equitable, we have to be thankful. We have to be grateful for what they bring to the table, even if it differs from what we bring to the table. I grew up in the South. I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up in the time of desegregation. I had a fortunate opportunity to see that firsthand. And I got to see my father, who was a plant manager of a textile company, really live characteristics in the 70s that a lot of people didn't. He treated people with respect and he connected with them, but he took a responsibility. So that's that second piece. The third piece is respect. The word respect comes from a Latin word that means to consider. It actually means to look at that person. So how does that connect with gratitude? How do we connect with the people that we want to lead? We must see them for who they are, and we must be grateful for that. We must look at them. We must consider them. When we think about the word respect, think about the idea that the root word is to look at. It means to make eye contact. It means to be engaged with them. How does that connect to gratitude? They will be thankful for that interaction, and you will gain from that experience. Knowledge. We have to understand the people that we're trying to lead. Michael Maccabee wrote a book called The Leaders We Need and What Makes Us Follow. And one of the key components, he said, for leadership is we have to understand the point of reference of the people we're trying to lead. If you think about that from a perspective of gratitude, the only way you're going to do that from a pure place of leadership, a pure place of commitment, is to be grateful for the opportunity to be around people and to learn about them from their perspective. For me, that's a key piece of the work that I do. Knowledge, understanding the people you're trying to lead. Care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. Those are those attributes. So if we think about that as the framework, where does gratitude really come into play? Here's where we connect. Being thankful, being grateful for the people that come and be on our, that choose to be on our team, that choose to work with us, that people that we want to lead, being grateful for them and expressing that gratitude in a meaningful way, a committed way, a connected way, that opens the door for equity. Because if we don't see it from that perspective, if we don't come into from a perspective of gratitude and thanking and being really connected with them and really, really engaged with them, we can never create a truly equitable environment. For me, when I lead people and when I connect with people, the first thing I want to know is about who they are. I want to know where they're coming from. Nicole talked about the different motivational value systems that people have and the different profiling tools that she uses. Those are all important. But if we want to lead someone and we want to get them to the point of where we want to be, that's where we have to start. We have to be grateful for them to be involved with us, and we have to show them that gratitude. I teach a course called the Authentic Gratitude Communication Framework that teaches leaders how to actually be very specific in how they say thank you to their subordinates and the people they work with and their peer group and the people they report to. But it starts from a position of authenticity. We must have to realize the great, amazing blessing we have to actually be in a leadership role to begin with. That's where equity starts. I know it seems like a stretch, but think about the people that have led you in the past, the people who demonstrate equity on a big level. They do it from a position of gratitude. I'm Marion, and that's my time. Rebecca, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this great discussion.
Oh, thank you, Marion. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. I mean, you have so much value and expertise and knowledge to provide. And I always enjoy hearing you speak about gratitude because it has such a powerful shift in how we are including that both in leadership and our workplaces. So it is a very, very important part, like everything we're speaking of today. You know, how can we become better and what can we do moving forward with all the wealth of knowledge that we have and all the experiences that we do have. So thank you again, Marion. And I would love to introduce our final speaker, number 3 here, and this is Katherin Beltran. And she is going to be speaking here today on the title of Coaching Your Employees to Find Solutions for Themselves. And I'm really looking forward to hearing this, Katherin, and I welcome you onto the stage and will say hello and hand it over to you now.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I'm really excited to be here today and be able to talk about implementing a coaching culture inside of your organization to have more productive employees, but more important than that, to make them happy. So through my presentation, I'm going to walk you through some real life examples, but there is one in particular, and it's about one of my clients. And for privacy reasons, I'm going to call her Mary. Mary is an African-American woman, and she relocated all her family from Florida to New York City for a new management opportunity in the healthcare industry. Her whole family was so excited. And for Mary, this was her opportunity, the opportunity to have a job she loved. Unfortunately, after just few months, she hates it. And she felt that she was not contributing to the organization, and she felt that she was not matching the expectations of the company. I want to ask you, does this sound familiar to you? Right? We all have known somebody that at one point they pack everything, their dreams, their family, and they move with the opportunity for a better job and a job opportunity. Well, did you know that less than 50% of employees in the United States are unhappy in their workplace? A study conducted by Lumina Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Media Foundation, and Gallup surveyed 6,600 workers and asked them about the factors that they care about the most. Some of the findings shows that employees right now feel that it's harder than ever to climb the corporate ladder, to be more creative, to learn new skills. They even feel that it's harder to be supported to do their work the best they can. My name is Katherin Beltran. I'm so excited to be here. I'm a certified executive and a business coach with more than 15 years of senior leadership positions in corporate America, from sales to marketing to community integrated health and work wellness. And in the past 5 years, I have been able to build a very successful business, coaching business, and help organizations, small business owners, and entrepreneurs scale, succeed, and thrive. For me, it's an honor to be here today and help you understand why it's so important that you have this coaching culture inside of your organization, so your employees are not only more productive, because I know that that's a priority, but how you can help them to be happier. And it's for this reason that Mary's story, like I showed at the beginning of the presentation, is so important. And as I mentioned, she's an African-American woman, and she relocated her whole family to go after the job that she has been dreaming forever, right? And as a new leader in this position, she started to have challenges, and her biggest challenge was communication, but was not with people that reports directly to her, but was with another leaders inside of her organization that she needs to work with. After we start our first coaching session, I start to ask provoking questions, she realized that in her subconscious mind, she has feelings that she has to prove that she deserves to be an African-American woman in a leadership position. And that was the aha moment for her. For her was the realization that this belief may be affecting the interaction that she has with others that she was working with. And also, this may be affecting the way that people in the organization was perceiving and receiving her communication. This is one of the biggest reasons why you want to have a coaching culture inside of your organization. You want your employees to get to that aha moment. Because I can tell you, after I took Mary to that moment and she realized what was going on, so easy to set up an action plan and very specific steps that she can start to implement right away. I want you to remember that coaching is a partnership. It's an accountability process where we coaches have one and only one goal in mind. Help the people that we are coaching, in this case, let's say your employees, bring into that aha moment so they can transform and they can succeed, they can thrive, and they can do their job the best they can. The reality is that your employees, they want to be recognized and they want to feel that they are equipped with the best tools to do their jobs the best they can. You can notice that I'm really personal about these because I want to encourage you to not be only leaders, but I want you to be agents of change for the employees in your organization. I'm going to walk you through an example, a real life example right now. If we were all together in a room, I will tell you, raise your hand at the end. I want you to follow along. And I want you to think if at one point in your professional career, you have been in this position, either as an employee, as a boss or leader, or maybe as a coworker, right? So let's say that Susie is the social media manager for your organization. And she's having a conversation in the break room with her boss. And she mentioned, you know what, I would love to make some changes to next month's newsletter that is going out to our VIP clients. I'm confident that the changes that I want to implement will help to, and right there, suddenly her boss interrupt and say like, you know what, Susie, now that you mention it, I want you to start to work in these inside of the newsletter. And she just started to go on and on and on. Imagine that. If you are Susie, everything is happening right there. Suddenly, all this information is coming to her. And I can imagine if you were her, that you will be frustrated. One, probably it's not the first time that happens, but second, because it doesn't look like your idea anymore. It's somebody else's idea. And unfortunately, this is where we are now. And with coaching, this scenario will be totally different, because the conversation will be leading with strategic questions that invite your employees to get solutions and outcomes at the same time that you make them feel empowered. And this is where we all can be. It's not something that is not achievable. To anyone in leadership positions, I encourage you to ask rather than tell. And this is going to be a little bit hard, but I want to let them find the solutions. And I want you to let go your desire to control. And I know that sometimes as leaders, that may be tough, but it's doable, because I can tell you that if your employees feel that you trust them, they can get to the solutions. In order to have a more productive workforce, your employees must feel happy, and they must feel some sort sense of balance. However, we all know that the reality is that inside an organization, people is pulling multiple directions, priorities, commitments, and this is happening every day at the same time. And the reason why coaching is so important is because that will make your employees to make decisions from a place of alignment instead of reacting out of urgency. I want you to realize that you are the solution and that you have the power to increase the percentage of happy workers right now here in the United States and in the world, because you know that for them, the feeling is that it's getting harder to climb the corporate ladder, be more creative, and develop new skills. So I really encourage you to look into that, to give the tools that your leaders and HR professionals need. In that way, you have more productive teams and more happy people working in your organization. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katherin. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I love that you were able to share with us actual live examples of how you have been working both with your clients individually, but then also bringing them into the workplace and seeing, you know, that partnership of how can we move forward to better ourselves and to support our employees in taking those steps forward for our growth as well. So thank you so much, Katherin. And to everyone here and everyone in the chat, I can see your comments, and thank you for being patient with us and sticking by us here with each and every segment of our technical difficulties, but it's running smooth now. And we have Jared here beside us. And I am going to just say thank you to everyone for this workplace wellness segment, and hand over to Jared and say hello and welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Rebecca. This is awesome. I am so excited, y'all. This has been something that I've been looking forward to since Sumana was like, let's do volume 2, right? Like super stoked. So I'm really, really excited to be a part of this today. Just giving some quick shout outs to some folks I see in the chat. Susan, Karr, what's good? Good to see. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us. Josh, I can't wait to see your speech, man. I'm really looking forward to that. That's on my must listen to later on. So what we're going to do real quick is just do hey, Sumana.
Hello.
What's good?
I took a break. I had 2 cucumbers. My blood sugar is back up. I don't feel like crying anymore. So I'm so happy to be here.
Let's go. Let's go. I'm so excited too. I think this is going to be an amazing, it already has been an amazing event to date, and moving forward, it's just going to get better and better, right? So just to kind of let everybody know, just quick reset for us here. If you go back to our event page, it'll connect you to the correct link. And that'll bring you here to the actual summit that we're streaming right now, where you can hop in the chat. Felipe, what's good, man? Good to see you. Thanks for coming by and hanging out with us. Yeah, so if you go back to our event page, click on that link. One quick shout out to that I definitely want to make sure that everybody is aware of is our after party, because Sumana, is going down, right?
Yes, the Toucan after party, it's open. So if you watched any of our speakers and you really want to chat with them, you want to ask them more questions, you want to mix and mingle virtually without any of the technical difficulties, the Toucan space is working so beautifully. So go over there. The link is on our landing page, WorkplaceWellness.Summit.Club. The new link to this new Restream link has also been updated. Thank you so much, Meredith Rendai, for updating that. So if you click that watch link, it's there. So please do share the link with your friends. Invite some people in so that they can watch. We just have 2 more segments to go. Culture and inclusion, and then mental health and belonging. So Jared is our culture collaborator. I'm stepping in for Jen Hensel. She's running a little bit late, so I'll try to support Jared as much as I can, but I already know Jared so well, so this is like we're just kicking it, hey?
Just kicking it. You know it. It's been amazing. Yeah, so I think maybe just in the spirit of time, Sumana, if I just go ahead and introduce our first speaker and what she's going to be speaking about, and we can get this thing cracking. How's that sound?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, the first speaker that is going to be speaking here in the culture and conclusion space, her name is Sertrice Grice, and her speech is going to be about inclusion, what you do. It's what we do, right, Sertrice? I'm so glad to see you. Thank you so much for kicking it with us. I will pass the mic over to you.
Thanks, Jared, and thanks again for telling me about this summit and bringing me here. Excited to be here with all of you, and gonna try and keep my talk pretty tight because I know we're running a little behind. So let's see how we do. So that being said, I am Sertrice Grice, co-founder and chief consulting officer of Mattingly Solutions, which is a woman-owned diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting firm. And I know some of you may have seen this summit and you saw it was workplace wellness and you thought to yourself, why are they talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion so much? And I think it's a place where people don't always make that connection, but it's true. Diverse, equitable, and inclusive organizations, having a diverse, equitable, and inclusive organization impacts your health. And when you're lacking that, it can have negative side effects. But before I get too far into that, let me start with some level setting and what I mean when I use those words. So when it comes to diversity, I like to think of it as how we see each other. And this can be visible or non-visible, but it's tracing characteristics about ourselves that influence how we perceive each other. And also want to make it really clear that diversity is a group level measurement, right? It's not one person alone. I'm in this room by myself. I'm not a diverse person. It's based on a group there. And then when I talk about equity is how we elevate those who have historically been left behind at a systemic level. So equity is, what is an organization doing to support employees from all backgrounds? I loved how Marion was talking about it earlier in the equity segment as well. And then the part that we're going to lean into more in this segment is around inclusion. So whereas equity was at the org level, inclusion is at an individual level. It's how we treat each other. That's where the title came from, right? Inclusion is what we do. And so with that, I'm thinking of it as an action. The last thing I want to call out in my level setting is just what happens when you have all of these. So if you have a diverse environment, you have equity in place with your policies, practices, procedures, and then people are performing these inclusive behaviors, that's going to lead to belonging. That's how people feel, right? And that's where we can see that wellness connection, right? So if you have people encountering these behaviors and it's a safe environment, they're going to feel like they belong. They're going to feel better versus when they are lacking that, it can lead to depression. It can lead to other forms of trauma. It can have physical impacts on our health and lead to illness. So there's a lot of negative things there. So just wanted to draw that line into how these things all come together and how this plays a role. So that being said, when people talk about DEI, they often tend to push it off into the responsibility of the organization. And so that does have a role. That's where I had that equity piece that I talked about, right? And the other part, though, is that there is an individual role to play too, and that's the inclusion piece that I talked about. So with that in mind and thinking about inclusion, I thought I'd give you a tip today about how I like to think of it. And so we already started with inclusion as behaviors, but now I want you to picture a pyramid. And at that first level of the pyramid, the bottom level, it's the simplest, and that's everyday inclusion. Now, I'm sure you've all heard about microaggressions, and those are subtle words or actions that cause harm towards those that encounter them, typically from underrepresented groups or marginalized groups, and can often be unintentional. I'm not going to dive down the microaggression rabbit hole today, but what I do want to talk about is the other side. What should you be doing? And those are microaffirmations. So microaffirmations are subtle words or actions that make others, especially those from underrepresented groups, again, feel valued, respected, seen, and heard. So those feelings of belongingness. And those are often going to be intentional, especially when you're just starting out and you have to put in a little extra effort, right? Reminding yourself to ask someone how to pronounce their name. Or I know one thing we talked about earlier was adding captions to these videos, right? So making those conscious efforts to go out of your way and do behaviors that'll make people feel like they belong. So the goal is to make those naturally happen, but maybe it have to be intentional at first. So that's that simple level. And then the next level up, that's where, especially in an organization, we like to focus on inclusive leadership. So I have my background in industrial organizational psychology. I can't help it. I love data and I love research. And there was research that was done that found 6 characteristics of an inclusive leader. The first one of those being visible commitment. So they articulate that they are authentically committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they go out of their way to challenge the status quo and hold others accountable and really prioritize this work. So that visible commitment really has a strong role to play in regards to inclusive behaviors. Also humility. And so when it comes to humility, that's just being aware that, you don't know everything and you will make mistakes, and then encouraging others to accept that as well. And then there's awareness of bias. So similar to that, it's just knowing your own personal blind spots and also flaws in the system. So how can you have an impact on equity through your inclusive behaviors as well? And then curiosity about others. So that curiosity piece is really key, right? It's having an open mindset. We want to have that diversity. Well, what are you doing to communicate with people who are different from you in different ways? And seeking that with empathy to understand those people. Then next is effective collaboration. So again, kind of building on that, it's empowering others and paying attention to those differences and making a psychologically safe environment and building that team cohesion. And the last piece there being cultural intelligence. So again, just tying in with that curiosity piece, being attentive to others' cultures and adapting needs as required, especially, this is a leader. So you have a team. Are you being mindful of holidays they're celebrating or their diet if you're planning events, things like that. So having some intelligence there. Now that's the middle piece. And then there with that top piece, is that gold standard and what was kind of a buzzword, kind of has been dragged through the mud, but definitely, trust me, it still has a role to play, and that's allyship. And I say allyship is the gold standard because it is one of the toughest things when you do it right. And it was dragged through the mud a bit because people were just throwing it about and self-proclaiming, but really, allyship at its core is an ongoing relationship between an ally and their partner working together toward the shared goal of fairness, equity, and justice. And so breaking that down, it's about a partnership. So often when it comes to allyship, why people were against it is because it was so focused on the ally. Oftentimes people forget to focus on the partner. So what is the partner's role in this relationship? How are they coming together? How are they building? And so it's an ongoing relationship. And again, with inclusion being an individual level behavior, you have to build a relationship. I can't say I'm just an ally to blank community, right? No, I'd be an ally to a specific person. I know their needs. I'm doing behaviors with them, helping them in their goals and journey, especially when we're talking about inside an organization. So that's something that's really important. And then again, just on that second half of the definition is working together toward that shared goal of fairness, equity, and justice. So again, flipping to the partner side of this a little bit as your behaviors is being open and telling that ally what you need and exactly how they can help. So that way they're not guessing and making assumptions of how to best support you as well. So that's a little taste on the allyship piece of things. But that being said, I just wanted to revisit all three of these together, and that's that anyone can perform all of these inclusive behaviors: everyday inclusion, inclusive leadership, and allyship. Some behaviors may happen naturally, but some need to be intentional, especially if there's something you haven't done before. So as I wrap up, I challenge all of you to reframe how you think about inclusion and actively try to incorporate more inclusive behaviors in your professional life. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you, Sertrice. And hopefully you'll be kicking it in Toucan with us a little bit later this afternoon. Jen, what is good? What's going on?
Just enjoying the day like everyone else. I mean, this is an incredible group of people that have been pulled together, and I'm so excited about watching the chat and all of the people who are watching from their workplaces, from their home offices, for a day about workplace wellness and inclusion and belonging.
Yeah, you know what's so amazing about this summit and all the speakers that have come and a couple that are coming later this afternoon is it's a global presence, right? So they're from all over the globe. It's not just North American focused. So I love that about this summit. And I would be completely remiss if we didn't shout out the amazing sponsors of this event, one of them being your organization. So props, Jen. Thank you so much. And Ella Pitch. It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we're super happy to be here. I was part of the original planning team, right, a year ago when we all were on Clubhouse meeting and strategizing about how to impact the world positively. And this is where we've all come. And I love this group, this committee so much. And so my company, I specifically work with pre-seed and seed stage companies on their pitches, whether it's for investors, customer meetings, or pitch competitions. And I build accelerators. So I'm very much in the entrepreneurship world and the innovation and solopreneur founders mentality. And so I'm so interested in how people design and build culture, right? I love listening to Sertrice's talk because I think so many people have left corporate work to start their own organizations because they didn't feel included, didn't belong, didn't have a good workplace culture where they came from. And so now they have the opportunity to build something of their very own. And so I'm just soaking all of this up and hoping that a lot of other entrepreneurs are as well.
Yeah, it's been great, especially with Sertrice's insight there. So Jen, who do we have on the docket coming up for the next?
So I'm super excited. Tamit Chowdhury is coming up next. I know that they'll bring him on stage in just a moment, and he is giving a talk about inclusive culture in mission-driven organizations, which I love. So hi, Tamid, welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi. So, I spent years and years in nonprofit organizations. And so knowing that those are at their core mission-driven, I'm really excited to hear what you have to share with everyone. So tell us where you're coming in from. Where are you streaming in from?
Yeah, sure. So I'm in Brussels right now, Brussels, Belgium.
Perfect. Well, welcome. Thank you so much. And I'm going to let you take it away.
Yeah, sure. And thanks so much for having me. And of course, the work of everyone doing this. It's great. I love chatting to people. Let's do this more often. So a quick background about me. So yes, I grew up in the UK. Parents originally from Bangladesh. Spent a few years down there as well. I worked in the UK government for about 4 or 5 years in London, and then ended up in Brussels working on essentially European Union policy. So that's the quick nutshell. I wanted to talk about building inclusive cultures in organizations, and particularly mission-driven organizations. And Jen, it's funny, just as what you were saying about NGOs, I think this is kind of something that I had in mind when I was like, oh, this is something that hopefully I can give as an impactful piece to talk about. But if you aren't in a quote-unquote mission-driven organization, I think there's a lot of parallels that you can bring. And to be honest, what organization isn't mission-driven these days? So I think there's some really valuable things. So what's the issue? I think there are a lot of organizations that have clear goals. We want to be inclusive or diverse, or, we want to be nice people, something sometimes more fluffy, sometimes a bit more specific. The issue is that sometimes it's not so easy to do that, in terms of actually putting it in practice. And I won't spend too long talking about it, but for anyone that's kind of been in this space, I'm sure you've seen it a lot. Say one thing, actually do something quite different. I think that's a particular issue when we do get in the space of, people that are quite mission driven, or organizations that are, because the focus is on doing good in the world. So non-governmental organizations, indeed, even in government, you're so focused on doing good, and you have people that want to do good, that actually some of the organizational culture kind of slips under the surface, because I call it the sort of we're the goodies, comes into an issue that, we're not the problem, we're the solution to the world. And therefore, actually, some of these, it's not an inclusive space. A lot of NGOs actually are quite, dare I say it, bad. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty that are good. So that's the issue. And indeed, in corporate culture, that's still a case. And I suppose I just wanted to give some practical things in terms of what can we really do about this? So let's start with, okay, what are we saying with inclusion? I think that was talked about great by Sertrice just a moment ago as well, so I won't talk too much, but essentially including people and different people, and allowing them to be who they want to be in an organization and fully access it. The word culture, I think, is really interesting as well, and I've had my own sort of shifts in the last few days actually on this. And I'll take a definition, which is the attitudes and behaviors that characterize a group or an organization. So in other words, if you walk into an organization, if you walk into a shop, what sort of culture are you expecting, and will you expect to happen or regularly will happen? When you walk into a shop, you would expect people to be quite friendly and greet you and, be supportive in culture. And perhaps that will change when you're in Belgium or the UK or the US. So I think it's different in different places. But the thing is, how can we actually make that culture really inclusive for everyone for an organization? And I'll start perhaps with the leadership, but I do want to actually go into for everyone else, because hey, well, we're all leaders, of course, but I mean, not everyone is a CEO, and there's still plenty we can do. But just to kind of cross it off the list, I think leaders can actually do a lot in terms of really putting their money where their mouth is, in terms of diversity and inclusion, for example, in inclusive culture, putting that as part of your organizational strategy in terms of what you want to deliver, for example, and actually how you are addressing issues in terms of your performance management. Is there a rating system that is actually talking about how people are and how they are behaving, rather than what they are just outputting? So in the civil service in the UK, there was this sort of hows, the what's, I am going to complete this paper by X, or something a bit broader. But then there was a lot about the hows and the behaviors you show. So, if you're being completely cutthroat and not talking to a load of teams to push this through, that's not a rewarded behavior. So I think there's a lot you can do in those spaces. And, if you're interested in that, look up the civil service behaviors in the UK, and that'll give you some ideas. And indeed, some of the big corporations and big consultancy firms that are, particularly innovative, use these sort of behaviors as well, or competencies, whatever you want to call them. And I'm sure if you've gone through leadership criteria, you'll see a lot of that. Now, in terms of sort of for everyone else, and indeed leaders as well, what can we really do? And I guess the point is that actually we can really influence the people around us and the culture that we have, whether that's just in our day-to-day interactions, whether it is working with individuals, whether it's working with a team of 2, 20, or 100. And so some basic things, and this sounds very obvious, and yet how many times do we not do this? Let's talk about scheduling meetings in a time zone that is friendly for everyone, that everyone can access. It's not too early morning for carers, not too late for people who have to leave work early. Are you scheduling space for people to actually, ask how each other are? We ask how are we doing? How are you? And it's kind of a throwaway question. Whereas the cultures that do really good are the ones where you are actually getting genuine questions of, how are you doing? And so those are quite basic things, giving space within the team to actually talk to people, and, having an open door policy if people want to actually chat with each other. I work in an organization, and I've worked in organizations where dropping a line, yeah, do you want a coffee chat? That's just an accepted culture. And what you can really do is signal that, you can say, hey, I'm always up for a chat. And by declaring that, you can kind of actually push things. And if you're in a position of seniority, you can kind of say, look, I see the benefit of doing this, and I'd like, perhaps us bringing this into the culture of the team. But even if you're the most junior, you can say, hey, look, I understand that I want to get to know more people, and that rubs off on others. So we can really be the change in the culture that we want to see, even if we don't quite have access to the big, strategic questions of meetings. And if we want to formalize that more, we can actually start putting, team ethos and vision statements, but really doing it in a way that builds in, that buy-in, so to speak. Doing a workshop with, say, your team of 5 or 10, and actually saying, okay, well, what do we want to be as a team? And getting a proper facilitator and not letting it be dominated by the most senior person, and actually getting people to really buy into what is said. That can make a world of difference. And, we talk about these big things like, diversity, inclusion, wellness, and they are big themes, and that is important to talk about it in this big sense. But I think it's really important for us to remember that us as individuals can actually do a lot. I go in, I've really made a commitment to talk to my staff and say, hey, look, I want to give as much development time as you want. And, that's just a commitment that I'm happy to do. But equally, feel free to drop me a message whenever you need. And, those are small things that I can do. But also I can talk about the fact that I do them, because with the hope that, hey, look, this is something that I see is not just for me, but also for the wider benefit of everyone. So I think it's really key that, we live the way that we want to, and shifting the culture within mission-driven organizations in terms of how we're working and, how we're really implementing these things. If you are a leader, you can actually put that on pen and paper. And even if not, we'll have talks, I think, throughout this in terms of things like staff networks and employee resource groups, if you're more familiar. So I think there's a lot of different ways that we can really have an impact. So I think in summary, just to kind of round this off in terms of what I really hope you take away from this, I think it's culture is made up of people, and we are people, we are individuals, and culture is actually the behaviors that we take. So us as individuals, you as an individual, can actually make a real difference in terms of the way that your culture operates in an organization, whether you've just started or you've been there for 10, 20 years. So you could really be that change. And in the space of these organizations where it's a lot of sort of external, we want to change the world, I think it's an opportunity to say, hey, look, I want to live by those ideals also in the way I work. Hey, I want to help people in, I don't know, charity and stuff, and developing countries. Hey, I also want to help the people in front of me, and how are we with our contractors? So I think there's loads that we can really delve into, and this is just a sort of very light touch side, but I think there's just so much we can do as individuals to really shift the culture around us.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. A couple of things that you pointed out that I'm super stoked about, and hopefully you can join us tomorrow for the panel discussion on culture and inclusion to impact workplace wellness. Just hearing you speak, what really spoke to me was the psychological safety component, both from a leader's perspective, but also from an individual contributor's perspective. So that's going to be an awesome point of topic tomorrow when we have our panel discussion. And the other piece that you kind of teased a bit that I'm really, really passionate about is that employee resource groups and how they can really make an impact to the organizational culture. So I'm super stoked about that. Just a quick update to let everybody know. After the last round of speakers today, we are going to be doing our after party. It's going to be on Toucan, and at any moment, there you go. Join us. Click on the link. Come to Toucan. You can join certain select groups. You can meet and have some conversations with the speakers, which I intend to do. Socialize with some of the moderators that have been a part of this amazing event. So it's going to be an amazing time. So definitely come check that out. The last speaker that we're going to bring up, Sophy Yohannan, her speech, I'm so excited about, y'all. Sophy, I'm so excited. This is about mentorship, right? A two-way street to inclusion. Oh man, I'm so excited. Let's pass the mic to you, Sophy, and hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you so much. I really resonated with a lot of criteria and the different ways we can include each other that Tamid spoke about. Sertrice spoke about, Marion before that. So many great speakers. So welcome to a discussion about mentorship, a two-way street to an inclusive culture. According to Forbes magazine, 71% of Fortune 500 companies have mentoring programs. Of those with a mentor, 97% say that they are valuable. 97%, okay? Yet only 37% of professionals have a mentor. Why? Why is that? 89% of those who have been mentored will also go on to mentor others. So there's the key. Keep that in mind, okay? So hi, I'm Sophy Yohannan. I'm a clinical scientist currently working at a medical device company called 𝐻𝐽𝐻 Therapeutics. I have 19 years experience in clinical trials and a background in medicine. I'm also a wife, a mom, a Sunday school teacher, an instructor for new clinical research professionals at a company called Clinical Research Fast Track, a STEM mentor for a national program called JSHS, Junior Science and Humanities Symposium, for high school students interested in a STEM career. And I'm a mentorship enthusiast, of course. So why is it important to have a mentor and a mentee? It's not just about the learning and professional growth, which of course happens with a mentorship relationship. It's all about enriching our culture, our knowledge, our experience, our background. And we're going to talk about that. So let me talk about 3 facets of the mentorship dynamic that can benefit us. 1, making an impact. Okay, life is short and precious. We have a limited time on this earth. Most of us want to make an impact in some way or the other, right? We can't take our diplomas or certifications or salaries or bonuses or prizes with us at the end of this life, but we can make a lasting impact, right, on others. And those relationships will endure. We can leave a legacy of mentorship for younger professionals, the next generations, and help create a culture that fosters collaboration for our children and maybe for our children's children. We can learn from our mentees as well as our mentors. How? Let's talk about the 2 birds with 1 stone benefits of professional mentorship. So number 2, 2 birds with 1 stone benefit of professional mentorship. The ideal mentorship dynamic is when both the mentor and the mentee benefit from a relationship. They're both learning. They're both exchanging information, experience, skills, perspectives. Pairing baby boomers with Gen Xers, or Gen Xers with millennials or Gen Z population for maximum benefit, because each generation, each age group, each professional group has a different advantage to offer. Pairing males with females, those in majority groups with those in the minority, those from urban backgrounds with those from rural backgrounds, pairing US colleagues with those from small town, or US colleagues with those from European or Middle Eastern or Asian with African colleagues to increase diversity of perspective. Prevention of exclusion by giving each generation a stake in the game, right? If you have a round table of stakeholders for a project, for a task, for a goal, and everyone has a part to play, and each person is from a different background, a different generation, a different geography, a different location, and they have a part to play. Nobody wants to look like the weak link, right? So everyone is going to come up with new, fresh ideas. Everyone's going to put in their input, and everyone's going to learn from one another. So passively learning about diverse geographies, ethnicities, faiths, genders, sexuality, or diversity of thought while exchanging professional techniques, skills, and perspectives. Okay, and then the third advantage, right? We talked about making an impact. We talked about the 2 birds with 1 stone benefits. And now we're going to talk about team growth and advancement, because this is not just for you or just for me. This is for a whole team, a team as a whole as well. So we each solve the same problem differently, right? The more diverse thinkers we have in the room, the more options we come up with. This is how we initiate innovation, okay? And that is beneficial in multiple different fields. Allyship during mentorship is another advantage. If you had a mentor from a minority group who lifted you up, right? Taught you how to apply your skills, spoke about you in a positive way in front of other team members, wouldn't you want to be his or her ally during a potential conflict? Isn't the opposite also true? If you have a mentee from a marginalized group who brings innovative ideas and out-of-the-box approach to your process, wouldn't you want to defend him, her, or them when there is harsh criticism? So then put yourself in the other person's shoes. This is how we lift each other, and the next person lifts the next person, and on and on. Part of workplace wellness is team building. A successful team is about getting the job done any which way and all hands in, right? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could use each individual's unique strengths to the team's overall advantage to advance a product, create more efficient timelines, troubleshoot issues that arise? Maybe you can figure out how to solve a problem better than I can in one situation. Maybe I have an idea that you didn't think of. And can't we quietly correct each other's weaknesses, keeping in mind that we too have weaknesses of our own? Mentorship facilitates broader perspective to allow for forgiveness and allyship. So there you have it, folks. With a thriving mentorship program at your workplace, you can make a lasting impact, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, learning actively and passively about cultures and perspectives you never considered on your own, and 3, contribute toward your overall team growth and advancement. What could be better? So my plea to all of you watching or listening today is find yourself a mentor. If you don't have one, look within your own network first. Then do your homework at your place of work, in your community, at your government agency. Find yourself a mentee also, not just a mentor. So having a mentee is just as important. Actively search for someone younger or less experienced than you. And when you have to teach someone else, you are forced to perfect your craft, right? Spread the word. Share your mentorship experiences with others and encourage a culture of collaboration, perpetual learning, and forgiveness. That's it. I'm Sophy Yohannan, and I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you.
Oh, Sophy, that was amazing. That was so good. Thank you so much for kicking it and dropping that knowledge today. That was amazing. One of the things I jotted down that really spoke to me was the team growth advancement. I think that's awesome. Hopefully we can dig into that a little bit more tomorrow during the panel discussion. So Sophy, again, thanks so much. That was an amazing speech. So I think what we're going to do next is there's a new round of speakers that are in the queue that are going to come up and drop some more knowledge. So with that, I want to pass the mic over to Jen.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. That was amazing. That whole section of culture and inclusion, every speaker on point, like really incredible, valuable information. I'm stoked. I spend a lot of time, again, in entrepreneurship, building out and supporting mentorship models. And so I love hearing mentorship spoken of as an asset to DE&I work. When I work with ecosystems and different players, I always encourage them to have as diverse a mentorship pool as possible, because it really does matter for the engagement to be effective, that both parties feel seen and heard and understood at the human level before anyone even talks about, growth and scaling and all the finance and all the things. It really is about a human connection. So I'm so excited that was part of today's talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And the culture that fosters collaboration through inclusion, like there are so many good gems that were shared there. So I'm excited. I can't wait to hear what you have on the docket for this afternoon.
Yeah, all right. Well, thanks so much. So up next is a segment on mental health and belonging. And I believe that Nicole North is going to be joining me, and we are going to co-moderate this section together. Nicole, welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm loving what's going on so far.
It is a wonderful, wonderful day. We must give huge thanks to all the moderators, the planning committee, the sponsors are just doing a spectacular job at keeping this all together and making it run fantastically.
Yes, on behalf of everyone, I think, in the audience, we are definitely clapping for the tech team in the background and the planning committee in the background, who is scrambling and working hard and just like grace under pressure. I mean, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I am super excited to host this section on mental health and belonging. What are you most excited for, Jen?
I'm excited to hear all of the speakers. I'm really curious. I think Taya at the end is going to wrap up with something that I'm really curious and interested about, which is, so I personally have mental health issues, diagnosis, whatever that looks like, right? And I think honestly, most of us do. At least most of the women that I know are struggling with some level of something or another, and have been for a long time. And so I love the concept of talking about it openly, acknowledging that it is what it is, acknowledging that professionalism is still accepted side by side with mental health issues. I was recently actually diagnosed with ADHD, and it has made such a huge difference learning about it and understanding the way my brain works and the way my brain interacts with other people and just like the world around me. And so I have been so comforted by having access to care and the ability to have medication. And so anyway, so I'm really excited about getting into some of those pieces to remove the stigma and help people move in a way that is most in alignment with themselves.
And I'm so passionate about this topic. As you know, I also experienced the health issues postpartum, had a lot of postpartum anxiety and things like that really kind of affect me after children. And so it's so comforting to know that the professional world is open to these conversations, so that we can just lay it out on the table. We can talk about how we're feeling. And so I'm so pumped to hear what people have to say and to continue our learning journey today.
Right. Yeah, no, I am too. And I'm really excited about us having this component, just to put a fine point on. We're talking about workplace wellness and we're talking about culture and inclusion, but the belonging piece is so crucial, and it can't get left behind, and it gets left behind in so many conversations. So no, I'm super thrilled to hear all three of our speakers. I know that up first, I think we have Joshua. Is that right?
That is right. Let us welcome to the stage Joshua Graner. Welcome, Joshua. Joshua helps leaders and professionals build resilience for themselves and their teams and create a workplace to thrive in.
Hey, how's it going?
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's pass it to you, Joshua. We're looking forward to hearing from you today.
Yeah, thank you very much. So today, what I'm going to talk about is the upside of risk and the dark side of diversity, and the two go hand in hand. And let me back up with a story. So I spent a lot of time in the military as a combat medic and as an instructor, and also as a resilience officer. And the nature of my job was to jump out of airplanes and to seek out people on a battlefield situation under dangerous conditions, and to help them out and to get them evacuated. And under those circumstances, under those specific conditions, I physically was not safe a lot of times, but that's what I signed up for. But very rarely in those situations did I feel psychologically unsafe. And the reason is because I knew that I was part of a team. I knew that I could take personal risk, and I knew that I could take interpersonal risk. I could take social risk. I could speak my mind if I needed to, regardless of what my rank was. What was measured more was how much we were willing to participate versus what was our status or what was our rank. So the Harvard Business Review brought out an article back in 2021. I'm going to take a look at the time because I can get a little bit lengthy. Back in 2021, the Harvard Business Review came out with an article that basically highlighted a large-scale research project where they found that, as we know and as we love and as we believe, that diversity increases productivity and innovation in the workplace, except in environments that are psychologically unsafe. And in these psychologically unsafe environments, not only does innovation and productivity decrease, but so does perceived well-being. And one of the reasons I believe that this is the case is because when we feel psychologically safe to be authentic and to be ourselves, we're willing to take risk. And if I can kind of dive into the neuroscience and to the cognitive psychology for a little bit, one of the things that I think is critical to well-being and wellness, and this kind of touches on what I do as far as helping teams and helping organizations, especially healthcare organizations, to improve their productivity and to improve their performance, is the ability to get into flow state. And flow state is defined as a state of optimal being or optimal performance where we kind of lose track of time and we're so fully focused and engaged in what it is that we're doing that we start creating and we start innovating at such a high level. And that's not something that is just, for innovate or for entrepreneurs or for inventors. All of us are entitled to that. So in this Harvard Business Review article, when they highlighted this, I started thinking about the importance of flow and the ability to get into flow for everybody. And that, from my research, one of the things that is really critical is the ability to take personal risk. When there's no risk, when there's no freedom to take risk, when there's no support to take risk, then there is no flow, because that is one of the things that helps to drive us into the psychological and neurobiological state of flow. So if it's okay, I'd like to go a tiny bit into the neurobiology and talk about two different systems that are happening within the brain simultaneously. And one is called the attentional system. And the attentional system is comprised of these various networks. One is called the salience network. The other one's called the executive attentional network. The other one's called the observation action network, right? These are different networks in the brain that are focused on what we need to pay attention to. It's the thing that is the most important to us. Most of it is dedicated to our survival, but a lot of it is dedicated to what it is we're focusing on in the moment. So right now, my attentional networks are going at a peak. I'm really all of those aspects of those networks are firing at a really high level right now because I'm focused on what it is that I'm talking about. When we get into these states of high focus, high intensity attention, this state is very blissful for us because one of the things that it does is it helps to make us feel secure. It helps to make us feel that we are okay within our environment. And it gives us the confidence to take personal risks. So you can think about somebody like an F1 race car driver or a downhill mountain biker, a downhill skier, or somebody, who's like all of us standing up on stage and talking. We're willing to take risk. Every word that I'm saying is some form of risk. And the attentional networks are helping me to get into that state. So we love to be in this state. It feels really, really good. The only thing about this is that it creates, these attentional networks create what are called our beliefs, our opinions, and our biases, what I like to refer to as our BOBs. So our bobs, we love to hang out with our bobs. Our bobs drive us into flow state. But we also have another network in the brain called the default mode network, the DMN, or what I like to call the demon. And the demon is our imagination. It's the thing that is responsible for our rumination, for pensiveness, also for anxiety, but also for planning and preparation. So it's often difficult for us to be in these two different states at the same time, where we're paying a lot of attention to what's happening in the present moment, and at the same time being able to imagine and to ruminate and to think about and to be concerned about things that have happened in the future or things that could have occurred back in the past, right? So let's think about this in terms of an exercise that I would love for you to do with me, if that's okay. And I'm getting a little bit off track, but that's all right. Let's stop for a moment. And if you'd like to, close your eyes and think about a time that they contradicted something that you believed, something that you thought about, something that you assumed to be true. Think about how that makes you feel, right? And this could be as a leader, this could be as a partner, this could be in any circumstance with our children. Notice where you feel that in your body. You might notice, even just going back into the past and thinking about this, that sensation might be unpleasant, right? Our bobs don't like to be contradicted. Our beliefs, opinions, and biases, they don't like to be contradicted. When that happens, it creates a little bit of anxiousness, maybe a little bit of agitation. And in that moment, you can ask yourself, am I being curious? And I would say that 9 times out of 10, if we're agitated by a break in our focus and our concentration because somebody's bringing up a perspective that we might not agree with, or that is so novel that we haven't even considered it, when that happens and we feel that agitation, 9 times out of 10, I would guess, and this is true for me, that I'm not being curious. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce the remedy to this. So you're in this situation, somebody has said something to you, or they brought something up that you don't agree with, or that's brings up a lot of VUCA, a lot of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, right? So all of a sudden now your attentional networks are starting to freak out a little bit. Take a pause, ask yourself, am I being curious? And then now the very next step is this. Ask yourself, what is preventing me from being curious in this moment? When we ask this, what happens is now, so I'm in an attentional state, right? The effective action network, all these different things are happening all at the same time. And then when I ask myself, what is preventing me from being curious in this moment? Now I'm bringing my intentional networks along with my default mode networks. Now imagination and attention can happen simultaneously. And all of this is mediated through the process of creativity. All of this is mediated through this process of play. So I'd like to end with this point that we can support diversity of thoughts and diversity of idea, diversity of culture within our workplaces by creating psychological safety. And I believe one of the keys to creating a psychologically safe environment is to be curious. And I really believe that the statement, what is preventing me from being curious in this moment, is a minimum viable question that we can use in order to improve that psychological safety for our teams and also in our families. Okay, thank you very much for letting me ramble for a little bit.
You're kidding me. It wasn't rambling. It was amazing. I have tons of notes. And I think the piece that spoke to me, besides the metacognition question about what is preventing me from being curious, was this very logical linkage that you did of no safety means no risk, and no risk means no innovation, and no collaboration, right? So innovation and collaboration are things that are so essential to any workplace, to any nonprofit, to any startup, to any corporation. And so not having innovation or collaboration, if you're a leader and you hear that and you recognize that you are in charge of creating a culture where safety is there, psychological safety is there for all of your employees and your teams so that they can take risks, it's your job to put in the effort and figure out how to make it happen for your teams.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you very much for summarizing that, Jen. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. I also loved, by the way, like talking about the flow state and the science behind the flow state. It's something that I am always kind of curious about. And I know when I'm in that space, and I have actually left jobs, and I've, founded my own company at this point because I recognized where I got into flow states and that they were incongruous with the kind of work I was doing. And so being able to pay attention to that and recognize that for my mental and emotional health, and that also correlates to my physical health, I need to be in a place where I can be in flow state better, more often. And so I love this concept of curiosity and flow state. Joshua, you are fantastic. I'm so glad you're with us today.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you. All right. And I think up next, we are going to bring on Brittney Van Matre. Hi, Brittney.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Welcome. I'm so excited. And let me tell you, what part of your LinkedIn profile just like washed over me and gave me this recognition of like, ooh, I want to be friends with her and I want to know what she does in the world. It was building workplaces that prioritize the well-being of humanity. I mean, like goosebumps. That's incredible. So I can't wait to hear your perspective on all of this, what you're going to share with us. So I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay. So I'll just get right started here. So the past couple months have actually felt like a little bit of a reemergence, a rebirth after a long pause. We're no longer wearing the masks. We're feeling a bit more freedom. And we see this actually mirrored in our physical environment as well, and the natural ecosystems. We're in the precipice of spring and summer, so there's blooming and blossoming happening all around. And I'm in Portland, Oregon, and actually we just saw a nest of baby birds take flight for their very first time. And the energy right now is very palpable. It's full of life, and we're quite literally right now reaping the benefits of what we've sowed through the dark winter season. However, in corporate America, we've been reaping all along, haven't we? We've been sort of in this perpetual state of doing. But with this spring energy, we're all of a sudden seeing corporations return to a status quo, return to business as usual. And actually only 16% of companies are embracing an entirely new approach and going fully remote in this new paradigm that we're really entering right now. And our culture at large is also asking and even forcing us in some ways to hurry up and get on with it, right? To continue consuming, continue working, producing, and continue growing. And yet in these waves of transition, I can also sense a longing for rest, respite, space, self-care, listening, integration of what's happened over these past 2 years, physical movement and reflection. And how can I sense this? Because I too experienced a long pause and a death and rebirth cycle, if you will. So in 2020, within the span of about 7 months, while balancing a full-time job, being a mother, a wife, a corporate professional, and enduring the consequences of a global pandemic, I actually lost my grandmother, my coworker at a very young age, my father-in-law, and then my dad was diagnosed with a rare form of slow growth leukemia. And so all of these events alongside a pandemic marked with loneliness and isolation really made me stop. I no longer could go on the treadmill of always reaping what I had sowed. I had to stop for perhaps the first time in my life and really meet death and difficulty and uncertainty for the first time. And it was very hard. It was a metaphoric winter. I was really grieving what I knew was probably the end of my career. I was going through a middle life passage. I was dealing with a lot. I was forced to look at the meaning of my life beyond my career, beyond symbols of money, prestige, corporate ladder climbing, things of this nature. I was really forced to take a stop and look at my life and my well-being from a new perspective. And so I entered this incredibly dark and painful time, and I literally had no one to turn to. There were very few resources within my work environment, and I had a manager who was less than supportive. So I was actually at my 10-year mark in my career and decided to take my sabbatical, which was offered to me at 10 years of service. And so I went on a journey, and I came to find something that has really resonated with me, and I know that it will impact workplace ecosystems as we see them today. And what I've found really is that we cannot live balanced lives and have well-being within systems that desire and even demand that we live in a perpetual state of spring and summer. A system that is void of healthy pause for its employees, void of rest and good listening, space for reflection, self-care, choice, attunement to our bodies, creative freedom, connection with the earth, and a sense of non-doing. But there are solutions that I've found. So in particular, we have an opportunity right now before us to transform work through an immersive well-being approach that honors the multifaceted parts that make us all human, all of the different myriad ways that we are navigating this difficult life. And these are the 4 realms of self, and I'm going to go through these now. And the first is cognitive health, and that's simply a healthy mind. A healthy mind is truly the foundation for a healthy, productive life, and our cognition must be continuously nurtured and engaged. These can be through things like learning and development opportunities, financial literacy and wellness, opportunities to better understand oneself through psychometric testing and personality assessments. So really understanding and moving into a growth mindset within our cognitive realm. The second realm is our physical well-being, a healthy body. A healthy body enables us to be vital. It enables focus and longevity, and really it is the foundation for our productivity. And it must be nurtured with sleep hygiene, nutrition support, movement and exercise, preventative health, positive body image, stress reduction tools, and business practices that actually reduce stress in the environment, psychologically friendly and safe environments, cleanliness, and sustainable business practices that benefit not only our health, but the health of the planet. And the third one is emotional well-being, the third realm of self. Emotional well-being allows us to navigate life, work, and relationships with greater ease. It allows us to show up more fully as who we are. So how do we cultivate this? We do it through emotional intelligence training, individual coaching and psychotherapy, a very robust DEIB agenda, volunteerism opportunities, employee resource groups, leadership embodiment, and mental health services for all. And the last one that's not talked about in the workplace is spiritual well-being. Our personal and spiritual lives are what give us meaning. They allow for individual uniqueness, values, flow, and what we really love to do. So how do we cultivate this? We do it through play. We do it through creativity workshops, innovation challenges, understanding our values, driving a purpose-driven, non-linear career path, mindfulness programming, and regular company sabbaticals that you don't have to wait 10 years to achieve. Access to time spent in nature, space for religion, and space for silence and solitude within the day-to-day. So this is it. Within this scope of 4 realms, we are going to be working toward building an ecosystem of well-being at work with all companies that I work with, where people like me going through really difficult times can be supported in new and inventive ways. And the time for change is really now. And for me, not a day goes by that I don't consider these 4 realms of self within my individual life. And this journey led me to taking that 3-month sabbatical, finally gaining the courage to leave my job and pursue my dreams, walking a spiritual pilgrimage through Spain called the Camino de Santiago, and ultimately arriving at a new place in my body and my mind and my spirit. So to close, I'm going to leave us with a quote from actress, screenwriter, director, and producer Michaela Coel. And she says, "Do not be afraid to disappear from it and from us for a while and see what comes to you in the silence." And we should all be so lucky to have the opportunity to cultivate our four realms of self and to disappear and to find the true appointment of our souls and working for employers who allow us to do so. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Brittney. That was wonderful. I really resonated with, as I was watching, there's 12 birds nesting under my deck right out my window. That
That's
idea
wonderful.
of rebirth. And I love any types of those lists that allow us to categorize and parse out what we need to do, right? What am I doing for my cognitive health? What am I doing for my physical health? Because we sometimes get laser focused in on one of those, but we forget the other ones. So I love the idea of focusing on cognitive health, physical health, your emotional well-being, and also your spiritual well-being. And calling that an ecosystem, and the fact that you're helping organizations creating environments for people as they go through these challenging times, as we return to work, as we move into hybrid or remote or in-person work, these stressors aren't going away. So I'm thrilled that you're creating this place, and I know everyone has enjoyed what you've had for us. So thank you so much, Brittney.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to share.
Excellent. So next up, we have Taya Romero, who's joining us. Taya is shaping the path for the neurodivergent community, ERGs in clinical research, development, and the pharmaceutical space. We're so happy to have you here today, Taya. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me okay? How's my sound?
You sound absolutely perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Wonderful. So with that, I will pass the mic over to Taya, and we still look forward to hearing from you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Nicole. I'm really appreciative of everyone's time today. I know we're all busy, and this is during normal work hours. So if you have had a chance to dial in today, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm here to kind of educate and spread the knowledge of neurodiversity. And my name is Taya Romero. I work in clinical research. I have had a neurodivergent diagnosis, in fact, several overlapping diagnoses. And it took me a while in my career to understand how that impacted me in my career. So as an adult that was diagnosed, I wanted to help spread the education of what I learned to maybe help other women or other neurodivergent people to avoid those setbacks that I had. First of all, why do I say my neurodivergence is a superpower? It's because of the stigma and because of the negative traits that are often very widely spread throughout media and throughout our culture about neurodiversity. We have been told that we should be ashamed of who we are and to hide who we are. And when we hide who we are, what we're doing essentially is masking ourselves from the rest of the world. And this mask takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy to put up day after day after day in the work office. So I'm saying that the traits that make me neurodivergent are actually superpowers because other people do not have the same traits. We all think differently. There's billions of neurons, billions of connections going on through our brains, all of them wired a little different. No two people are exactly the same. So we are all divergent, of course, in a way, but neurodivergent has to be a diagnosable and something that is under a certain umbrella. So what that looks like are several different kinds of diagnosis that you may be familiar with hearing: dyslexia, ADHD, autism, but also some words that you may not be as familiar with, such as dyscalculia, um, dyspraxia, and there are several mental health conditions that are considered under the umbrella of neurodiversity, and also Tourette's syndrome. And acquired neurodiversity, which can occur from an illness or accident. And in society, there tends to be a superhero kind of notion that autism or people on the spectrum are going to come in and save the day because they have a super high intellect. And we see this often on TV with certain shows that involve doctors, or certain movies that we've all been raised watching. And that is not a true picture of what autism looks like. Every person that has autism is different, so you can't have just one idea of what that is. Everyone is going to be different in a different spectrum, in a different realm. And some people don't like the term spectrum. I continue to use it because it is in the DSM-5. They compare everyone on this spectrum. There are a lot of negative traits that are associated with neurodiversity, but culture rarely focuses on the positives. Some of those things are visualization. I'm able to spatially visualize things that other people cannot. I have a different way of problem solving. I can be hyper focused, and I tend to have a creative approach when solving problems. So to me, all of those traits are positives and should be something that we embrace. When you look statistically at how many people are neurodiverse, it's about 1 out of every 7 or 8 people are considered diagnosable. That is 12% of the population. And if you want to think about it in terms of something that you may be familiar with, it is the same amount of people in the population that are left-handed. So the same amount as 12% of the population is left-handed, 12% of the population is considered diagnosable in the neurodiverse world. So despite that percentage, unemployment rates can be up to 80% for people that are neurodiverse. And you think, well, why is that? Why would employment be so hard for some people with neurodiversity? And the reason is it is traditionally things that we consider good employment skills, or something that a good employer would look for, are things that neurodiverse community may not be that great at. For example, solid communication. We may not be able to communicate as well face to face as we do on paper, or vice versa. Everyone's different. But there may be definitely a preferred way of communicating, which can be misrepresented in an interview. A team player. Some people with neurodiversity prefer to work alone. They work very well alone. They're autonomous. This isn't all neurodiverse, but some people have difficulty with that team aspect. And then there's an emotional intelligence. As I said, we are constantly masking who we are in the workplace. So that may appear as inauthentic, or it may appear as something that is unusual, or a reaction that you may not expect from someone. And that includes, having that salesmanship or persuasiveness in an interview that may be lacking in someone with neurodiverse tendencies. So therefore, you're looking at a section of humans that are often overlooked, not for their skills, but just for the way they present. So it's important to have these discussions on neurodiversity, because if you look at the evolution of people, neurodiversity is as important to humans as biodiversity is to life on Earth. We all benefit from other ways of thinking, and we all appreciate new looks when we are trying to achieve greatness and great possibilities. So a lot of the people that you may love their music, you may know them in the science world, they may be famous mathematicians. A lot of these people are neurodiverse, not all, but some of them are. And that's because they took a different approach to solve a problem. And that different approach is now something that we study and learn. So it's definitely a positive trait that we should celebrate. And when you look at the positives of hiring, we're seeing upwards of 30% increase in productivity, where we see neurodivergent employers embracing employees. And why are we seeing the 30%? We've already talked about how neurodiversity does not mean you are a genius, right? It's just a different way of thinking. So when we look at why is that, it's because you can be yourself at work. And when you can be yourself at work and you're appreciated for who you are, you will come up with new ideas. You will come up with new perspectives and new approaches to things. Often neurodiverse people are very driven, and we're able to have that objective thinking that is lacking in many of the neurotypical responses. So that is the term that we use for not neurodiverse, it's neurotypical. So what I would like to leave you with today is the idea that neurodiversity is as vast and varying as every person that you meet, and it's not just one solution. Also, I would like you to reach out to someone that you know and that is neurodiverse, and just offer acceptance and non-judgment. And I have a list of resources that I can provide to you if you are interested. Please reach out, but some that are just at top of mind: Neurotribes by Steve Silberman. Neurodiversity Pathways is an organization out of San Francisco. Neurodiversity at Work by Theo Smith. The podcast NeuroGold by Jude Morrow, and the Attitude website, which is spelled ADD, and that is a resource for those with ADHD. Again, if you have any comments or questions, please reach out to me privately. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Taya. Jen, was it everything you dreamed about?
It was. I knew it was going to be incredible. So Taya, thank you so much for being here and sharing these perspectives. Like I said, I was most looking forward to your talk, and so it was really, really wonderful to hear the resources that you offer, the statistics that you are able to share with us. That really brings home other people's points of view and life experience and how that impacts the workplace. I've never heard anyone else talk about that, so I'm just really grateful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the time, and I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it has been just such an honor to moderate this speaker section on mental health and belonging. I know I certainly got a lot of tips and things to roll around in my brain today. What's your key takeaway, Jen?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I mean, all three of our speakers, Joshua, Brittney, Taya, incredible, right? Thinking about neurodiversity is as important as biodiversity. Amazing, right? Like amazing. And that, I mentioned after Josh spoke, the linkage between safety and risk and innovation and collaboration, and where that can fall apart in a workplace and how that impacts everyone and bottom line. And then, I mean, some of the visuals that we were given from Brittney's talk about the spring and the reawakening of ourselves, and like, I don't know, so many gems. What was your biggest takeaway?
So powerful. I think for me, it's that reiteration that psychological safety is a imperative component of organizational culture, of leadership, all of those things, in order to create places where people struggling with mental health, people wanting to get that sense of belonging, people wanting to be part of a bigger ecosystem, and that psychological safety has skills associated with it, skills, strategies, tools that are necessary to do that. And we need to get there. Now, is Soumana joining us? Our fearless
I heard a
leader.
rumor that she will be.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm here.
ta-da!
I didn't crawl under the table. I'm still standing, you guys.
I don't know how you're doing it.
We're so happy to have you here to close out day one of the Workplace Wellness Summit. Soumana, what are your thoughts from a really incredible set of speakers and a really cool chat going on from a global participants?
Wonderful. I mean, I got a couple of moments to sit down and just take it all in. And one very wonderful person that I met on LinkedIn, just very randomly, Petra, just popped into our space as well. So she's sitting right there in the corner with us. So we were having a little bit of a sidebar conversation. So the magic of community, you guys, I think that was the whole point in the beginning, in the morning, when I was talking about why did I do this? Why? What was my big why? My big why was, how do we bring people together? How do we have this conversation, and not just one siloed conversation, but a conversation that can bring the experts together at the same room, in the same time, at the same table. Wonderful speakers. I'm loving the comments that I've been reading, sitting back and listening to the mental health piece. I think that's super important for us in the workplace. When I started talking about it in the morning, I told you a little bit about some of the challenges that I went through in my workplace, and I'm done. I'm done. I'm quitting my job now because I couldn't do it anymore. You reach a capacity, which is why we're seeing the Great Resignation still kind of continue. So I'm just so happy. I mean, I know we had a bit of a bumpy start. I am happy that we were able to make it, and everybody who is watching and listening and interacting with us in the comment section, thank you so much. The Toucan space is open, so you can still pop in there and do a little bit of discussion. I just want to ask these wonderful moderators, because Nicole's conversation was amazing. There's a lot. I have so many messages on my LinkedIn DM. I don't even want to open it, but everyone's like, Nicole, you were great. Jen, lots of wonderful comments about your moderation as well. So all the moderators, thank you so much. All the sponsors, I wouldn't have been able to do this without you. Startup Edmonton, Innovate Edmonton, thank you for giving us a space for doing day one. Day two starts tomorrow. All the sponsor information is here. So Elapitch, Whiteboard Consulting, Meredith and I Coaching, Jetty Wellness, Ksla Mediation, and MLZ Consulting. We're all here together. So I am just so happy that we were able to wrap up this first day, and we're gonna come back again tomorrow. I'm hoping no technical difficulties tomorrow, but even if there is, that's okay. We'll smile through it. Thank you, moderators. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I'll meet you in the Toucan space. And if there's any questions and comments, you want to give us a critique, you learned something, do share that. Like I said in the morning, this is a two-way discussion. I really do want to hear from you. What are your pain points? What did you learn from us today? Who are your favorite speakers? What was your favorite theme? Put that in the comment. You can rewatch all of this on my YouTube. There's going to be 3 links. There's going to be that first little bit, and then the second bit, and then the third bit is the longest bit. So it's all going to be there on YouTube for you to watch. And tomorrow morning, we're going to start at the same time, 11:45 a.m. Eastern time on that link. But, just be active and engaged if something does go wrong. And I do apologize that we started a little bit late. And I do apologize with the little scam that was going on LinkedIn. This is a free event. This is a non-for-profit free event. We are not charging anybody any money to come. So if that did come through, thank you for letting me know. I did see a few DMs about that as well. That's it for me. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in Toucan. Cheers.